And so there are two kinds of leader connect groups. There's student leader connect groups and staff leader connect groups. Boom. And so student leader connect groups and staff leader connect groups. And the idea is we're bringing these guys together. So we talk about unity. I really believe that leader connect groups is the heartbeat of unity on a college campus. And I also believe that unity happens in the context of relationship. It's not some ethereal thing. It's not like, oh, let's be unified. There has to be real relationship for unity to happen. And so we call that relationship leader connect groups. Make sense? Is anyone currently a part of, starting, or thinking about starting a leader connect group by a show of hands? Cool. So we got like 50%. Good. So the other 50%, you guys can sleep through this one. No, just kidding. You might want to know this. God's got you here for a very specific reason. Remember that. All right. It's one of the other things I would add to ACPenny's definition is that it's of regularity. So these leaders are connecting on a regular basis. So ideally, it would be like weekly. Weekly, you get a friend from BCM and a friend from RUF and a friend from CCF and Longhorns for Christ, and you as students, you come all together, or you get the ministers all together from each of those ministries, and you say, hey guys, we're going to meet together on a regular basis, and we're going to start to figure out this thing called unity. Right? And so ideally, Leader Connect groups happen weekly or happen monthly. So what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to do the step-by-step on establishing a Leader Connect group. We're going to go through the steps on establishing a Leader Connect group. I think there's 8. Is that cool? Cool. Yes. Praises. All right. So when going to establish the Leader Connect group, I really like this is important, because if you want to be a part of a united movement, I believe this is where you start. Bringing leaders together. That's why this matters. I believe this is the starting place. This is the heartbeat. You get these guys together, you dream together, you pray together. I've got another saying, which is trust. So you're bringing these people together, you're establishing relationship with them. Trust is the currency of unity. Okay, so first thing. We call it LCG for short. Yeah. Establish relationships, vision. Okay, first thing, establish relationships / vision cast. That's going to be the first thing. And I put in parentheses, low-hanging fruit. Here's the deal. So you want to start a catalytic event. You want to do a Res Week. You got to bring leaders from different ministries together, whether students or whether campus ministers. Go where the Spirit is leading you. So if you know some students from some different ministries and they want to get together, then you're starting a Leader Connect group. All right, so establish relationships with these guys. I really think kind of the key to that is a one-on-one. So I'll go to the campus minister or the student leader of RUF, and I'll say, hey, so I have this vision. I just believe that unity should happen on college campuses, right? I just believe that that's what God's doing. and you get to know one another, and you establish a relationship, but you go for the low-hanging fruit. So I went to RUF because I heard that guy had a heart for unity already. Does it make sense? Or that friend that's a part of BCM has a heart for unity already. And so it's an easy sell to say, hey, would you come together? And maybe initially you don't pitch them on meeting every week. That sounds like a lot. Rather, you say, would you come to a gathering of these leaders? So like what you'll do is you'll have a one-on-one with the Baptist, the Presbyterian, the Catholic, the Methodist, the non-denominational. You'll have a one-on-one with these different leaders, and you'll invite them to come to what's the next point? The initial LCG meeting. All right. The initial. That's not how you spell that. Is that how you spell it? So you invite them to come to the initial LCG meeting. All right, so you've had these one-on-ones where you establish trust, and you went to as many that you have the time and capacity for. So as many of these different leaders that you have the time and the capacity for, you'll go to RUF, BCM, and say, hey, would you come to this initial meeting? And at this initial meeting, that's where the real vision casting happens. And here you pitch like, we've got, what if we did a collaborative event together, right? What if we brought all of our denominational differences. We came with all the diversity, the uniqueness. What if we came together and we had a worship thing? Or what if we together said, let's try to figure out how to reach every corner of the campus. So here you cast a vision. Or you tell them, so unity happens in the context of relationship. What if we just start to get together? I think there are four things that I have that are really the essence of a leader connect group weekly meeting. So you've got this initial one. You talk to them about praying together regularly. You talk to them about out of prayer strategy. How can we reach the campus together? And kind of a campus renewal strategy is something called campus mapping or spiritual mapping. Does anyone know what campus mapping is or spiritual mapping? Can someone describe that? Right. Yeah. Does it make sense? The purpose of campus mapping is to find out who's being reached and who's not being reached on the campus. So there's this beauty when you bring everybody together. It's like they each have a piece of the puzzle of what God's doing. And the only way you'll know the full picture of what God's doing is if everyone brings their piece. And so that's why we need leaders to come together, right? So we can see, wow, we've got unreached people groups on our own campus. Like we're talking about sending to the nations, but we've got India right here, and we have nobody reaching the Indians. Indian? Yeah. Prayer, strategy, and then mission. we've got this term campus saturation. But mission can look like a bunch of things. Catalytic events, missional communities, and catalytic events, missional communities. So that's like, let's establish a community of people on mission. We found out that no one's reaching the Indian population, the Middle Eastern population on our campus. Let's establish a missional community to reach those so that the whole campus becomes reached, right? So through prayer strategy, mission. We can do big events together. We can do missional communities. And then prayer events, big prayer events. Is that it? I think so. All right, we're going to move on. So you met with a bunch of people one-on-one. You invited them to initial gathering where you cast the vision, and then you follow up. You have one-on-one follow-ups. So it's like, I met with RUF. He was a low-hanging fruit. He came to our initial meeting, and now I'm going to follow up and say, do you have feedback on how that went? Right? We talked about doing these things together. Do you have feedback on that? And then, so you would try to do that with every individual that came. Cool? You would also maybe have follow-ups like, you only had 5 folks come to the initial gathering from 5 ministries. That's cool, right? That's okay. You only had 5 folks come. You would also then follow up with the people that didn't come, the people you haven't reached yet. Does that make sense? I'm going to try to zip through these a little quicker. All right, so the follow-up one-on-ones. And then essentially you have kind of your next LCG. And so it's going to look kind of like your initial one, similar to number 2. The reason why it's going to look kind of similar is because you might have a lot of new folks at that one. You hope to have new folks at that one. And so you'll want to recast vision again. Make sense? But you'll also, and then further, when laying a foundation, repetition is kind of necessary. Like, wait, who are you again? What are you doing on my campus? Okay, repeating. Make sense? 5, another round of one-on-ones if possible. So you're following up again. Unity happens in the context of relationship. I believe that the smallest unit of unity is a one-on-one. Like the smallest unit of unity is like this right here, growing out. Like hashing out our differences in those one-on-ones. Like, who are you? What do you believe? Well, why should I come to your united thing? I don't want to come to your united thing. That's the work of unity. Is this like laboring through, like, what does it mean to be unified? Like, that's the work of unity. It's like, a little side note, a campus minister from RUF at Georgia Tech pulled me aside and said, I love these big events, but they feel kind of cheap. Because, like, it's easy to get excited about something huge that everyone's coming to. You know what's hard? Week in and week out, meeting together and working through your differences. That's the work of unity. And so, like, the big events are like, they paint a picture. I mean, they're awesome, but they paint a picture that's not exactly how unified we really are. Just saying. I was humbled by that. All right. Here's 6. Regular LCGs. You're meeting every week or every month. You're doing your thing. Boom. You've got momentum. A movement has started. And then what I like to do, so I like to kind of call this first one this initial meeting a kickoff. I like to call this an end of semester something. Fellowship. And so what you do at the end of semester fellowship is like, all right, like we actually got together. And you celebrate like what happened. Maybe you even put on an event that semester. You come and you celebrate what had happened. And then you talk about vision for the next year. But this is kind of, and here's point 8. This is kind of the work I've seen, or one model of what starting and forming a Leader Connect group can look like. Okay, 254. Any questions on that? Yes, ma'am. Great question. So the idea is both, or either or. So you could have you're a student leader of crew at Kennesaw State. You could have a student leader of crew at Kennesaw State, one of BCM, one of RUF, one of Chi Alpha, meeting together and strategizing, how do we transform the campus together? Student Leader Connect group. And the same thing can happen on a staff level as well. Does it make sense? And a little side note is when you go to a student leader, like I will probably talk with Chris Hodges, which is their campus minister. You would probably want to talk to their campus minister and just kind of like make sure they don't think you're stealing their student, right? You kind of like want to make sure they don't think you're starting a prayer group stealing everybody's students. So, good question. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah, so what Brittany's saying is within Campus Renewal, we've got something different than a Student Leader Connect group, which is a core team. And so those students are primarily involved in Campus Renewal. And she's saying, would like a good thing to be have one of our core team members like be assigned to BCM and kind of be the liaison to that ministry. And I don't know. I haven't tried it. So I think we've thought about it. And I think a Student Leader Connect group is probably a one-stop shop for everybody if we could do that. So, any other questions on Leader Connect group? I wanted to just kind of hit benefits and common obstacles real quick. But I want to take any pertinent questions. Cool. All right, benefits. You may want to write these down, and you may not. But I'll go through them kind of quick. 257. Leaders becoming friends. The Pentecostal guy and the Reformed guy begin to see that we're friends and like actually go and like grab a beer together or something. It's pretty cool. It's no longer that guy that I don't believe the same thing. That's my friend. Just careful about that beer. Yes. Second thought, they begin to host events together that we didn't even instigate. So there's multiple international ministries on campuses, and they're like, wow, I didn't know this guy. Well, let's host an international ministry event together. And it's through the formation, it's through Leader Connect groups. I mentioned bringing each a piece of the puzzle. Baptist and Presbyterian each have their own strengths and weaknesses. Pentecostal. And so when you bring those guys together, they uniquely sharpen one another in their weaknesses. And I think we all come to more of the image of Christ together. We can bless sending students from one ministry to another because I know the leader of RUF and he's my friend, and so I don't mind a student going from my ministry to RUF. It's not this like sheep stealing mentality anymore. Anyone else have a benefit that they want to throw out there? Yes. It's attractive to the lost. Justin, got anything? God's attracted to humility. Just as this saying, I start to think of it less as a movement of unity and more of a movement of humility. That's why he's been doing this 20 years. Or something. All right, common obstacles. Going to go through some of these real quick. You might hear, yes, I want to be involved, and then they don't get involved. You're like, what? You might hear, I'm for unity, I just don't have the time. You might just hear, I'm not interested. You might email that person and text them and email them and not get any reply. You might do your thing and one person shows up, or it's just you for several weeks praying. Don't despise small beginnings. Justin has this saying, go with the goers. If 2 people come, run with those 2 people. If you wait for everyone to show up, you'll be waiting forever. All right. And so and then this is just going to be my last point. And to the, yes, I want to be involved, but doesn't show up, or to the, I'm for unity, but I just don't have time, or the, I'm not interested, or the email and no reply, and email and no reply, and email and no reply. Like, that's so real. But like, as Sean, like, so eloquently reminded us last night, Luke 11. What? I'm sleeping with my wife and kids. Okay, I'm coming down. Oh, you need bread. Take as much as you want as long as you'll leave. It's real. People will show up. Just keep knocking. Ask. Seek. Knock. All right. Leader Connect groups. That's it.